regarding like when you're saying about good genes or what that guy was claiming good genes?
Yeah.
How do I put this question? So it's like when you get people that don't live the healthiest life, but still you get people that still knocking on the door at 90. Not everyone, some people smoke, but what I'm saying is I'm not advocating doing that. I'm saying these people that manage to live that long despite not having the optimal diet and doing all that, they probably would have lived even longer if they'd have obviously eaten the optimal diet. So
Yeah.
some people, genetics wise, are going to have a stronger heart, a little bit of longevity, but obviously.
Absolutely.
So genes play us. I'm not saying they play everything because they don't.
No, of course,
They
of
play
course.
a small role.
Of course they play a role. Of course they do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything has weaknesses.
Yeah.
You know, the most expensive car in the world has a weakness somewhere where it's most likely to break down, right? It's every organism has weaknesses, and they're different for each of us. Some people inherit, a genetically weaker digestive tract, or some people, whatever. Everyone has weakness. You know, some people have this incredible genetic inheritance where they're gorgeous and they look amazing, and their body seems to work well no matter what they do to themselves. And here's the thing, again, people think, yeah, but that guy looks good, he must be healthy. And then they drop dead of cancer or heart disease. Okay? So the appearance gives us clues for sure, but especially when we don't know. We're talking about celebrities. You need to know, there are celebrities that have had 50 surgeries, 50 plastic surgeries, and they're using Botox, and they're using all kinds of stuff. You can't really know what people look like. And if you're looking at magazine pictures, you know that now something like over 90% of magazine photos of people are photoshopped. Mm-hmm. You're not really seeing what people look like in most cases. Has anyone ever run into a famous celebrity and didn't recognize them because they didn't look like they're supposed to look? Okay, it happens. So, I would say, don't worry too much. Of course, we all want to look good. Of course. But don't worry too much about that. You want to feel good about yourself. Right? I mean, people tell me, I get these haters on trolls that will say, what do you like, 100? Like, you look terrible. I'm like, well, have you ever considered the fact I'm just ugly? Okay, maybe it's not because I'm not healthy. This is as good as it gets. Sorry. Okay? We're not all Brad Pitt, right? Don't worry about that. Who cares? I feel amazing, and most people that meet me tell me I look healthy. Don't worry about what anybody in particular thinks. If you're actually in a healthy body, most people are going to think you look too thin. Because we live in a world now where 75% of adults are overweight. So if you're at a healthy weight, you're going to look thin in comparison.
That's a worldwide stat.
It's getting close to that, yeah. And in the US, the stats are becoming crazy. The US, the UK, Ireland, some of the worst. I spoke in, the first time, I spoke in a little town called Cork, Ireland. I had friends over there that had a vegan B&B. I lost touch with them. I haven't seen them in a long time. But years ago, I used to go every year over there to speak. And the first time I spoke in Cork, we came back the next morning. Ida, my friend who ran this place, said, Loren, she said, several of my friends were there last night at your lecture. She said, they were really impressed. I was like, oh. And then she says, yeah, they don't usually see a guy with a waist. They were impressed because I didn't have a big belly like all the men they're used to seeing.
I think that's one of the biggest things with this, the fruitarian, I don't want to call it a movement, whatever you want to call it, but because I look at so many different videos and you look at all the comments, and the biggest comments people put, oh, you look like this, you look like that. Not you, I'm on about all fruitarians. The biggest argument they seem to have is the fact that they're skinny or they're this, but it's like, imagine tomorrow if everyone did a fast and then started eating a fruitarian diet apart from 5% of the world, then you'd have 90% of the world looking, like you say, in the natural weight, and then
Right.
maybe 5% of people that look really fat because they are overweight.
Right, exactly.
So that it all comes down to the culture and
Exactly.
what people think.
Yeah, and the truth is, I'll share something with you guys. We still offer a program you might not be aware of called the Creating Perfect Health System, which we've offered now, I think, for 20 years. And I put it together 20 years ago. And it's all still valid because the truth doesn't change. The optimal diet hasn't changed. Fasting hasn't changed. All this stuff is still true. There's one thing I would change in there. What I said back then, what I taught back then was you don't need to exercise. You just need to be physically active. So, be active, move your body, engage in things you enjoy, and you'll be fine. And I believe that. I made the mistake that a lot of people make with a lot of things. I made it here because I was generalizing from my own specific experience. I was no longer working out in any significant way, but I stayed active and was still fit and strong. When we moved to Central America 14 years ago, in July it'll be 14 years, we moved to Central America, the internship program changed in one significant way. We began to include 1 hour exercise with me. I led a class for my students 5 days a week. And the youngest was 17, the oldest was 72, but most of them were in their 20s and 30s. And the average guy couldn't do 5 push-ups. And the average woman couldn't support her body weight hanging from a bar for 15 seconds. And I thought, and I apologize if this hits close to home, but I thought that's pathetic. And I thought if you lived in nature and had to jump up and grab a branch and pull yourself into it to get a meal, there'd be a lot of people going hungry. Okay, a lot of people wouldn't be able to get food if that was the only food available. Okay, we need to be able to move our own body weight around, and a lot of people can't do that. So I realized from that most people, once they get past adolescence, they're in school. I mean, and I think in the U.S. they've taken physical education out of all the schools because of the cost cuts. They can't afford that anymore, right? It's so important. I mean, it's so important to be physically healthy, and most kids aren't going to exercise, especially now. When I was a kid, I'd come home from school, and we were not allowed to watch television. We had television, but we weren't allowed to watch it. We were allowed to watch like 2 hours at night with the family, period. That was it. That was all. Okay? So we'd go outside and play. We didn't have computer games. We didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. There were no screens. We had toys. We had bikes. We had the forest. We'd go out and play in the woods. We'd be active most of the time. Today, a lot of kids don't do that, and the difference is striking. When I was a kid, when I was 12, with the elementary school of maybe 300 or 400 kids, you might see a handful of fat kids on the playground. And today, you see a handful of kids on the playground that aren't overweight. It's completely flipped. Okay? So, our views about what's normal and what's healthy are completely different. Children should be thin. And there's really no reason for that to ever change. 200 years ago, there were people who were overweight. They were kings and queens and royalty. And the small percentage of the population of the world that had a lot of resources, because they were the only people who could afford to eat enough to become overweight. And today, food is much cheaper relative to, the actual value of money. Much cheaper. Now, anyone can afford to be overweight. And this, there are a lot of cultures where people, they value being overweight because it's a sign of wealth. Not anymore. They should give that up. They still think that way. There's still cultures where people think this way. But they should give that up because it's not true. Everyone can be overweight now. Okay, it's cheaper to eat McDonald's than it is to eat real food.
That's an old way of thinking.
Yes, it is, but people don't change very quickly.
Right. Where do they still think that overweight is
A lot
side
of
effect?
places do. A lot of
India.
places do.
India does.
A lot of places do.
Because now it's being thin is a sign of.
Even here. Some of my staff, I remember when Shirley said to me, I want to gain weight. I'm like, Shirley, you don't need to gain any weight. But that's their thinking. No, you want to be a little fatter because the guys like it, and that's, you know, it's all stems from, well, that's success. That's where it came from, and it hasn't changed, okay? But here's the fact. I mean, a lot of people who look okay are carrying way too much body fat. If everyone lost the excess body fat, I mean, with fruitarians, what happens is you lose the excess body fat, and then you can see how much or how little muscle there actually is. There are a lot of fruitarians who are very skinny. They need more muscle. They don't look very healthy to me. Okay? But all the other people aren't any different. It's just that you can't see that. And I'm not suggesting, you know, we shouldn't be like big bodybuilders. That's not healthy either. But again, you should have enough muscle to be able to move your body around, in case you needed to do that. Your body actually won't function properly without proper body composition. So it's important for most people to build some muscle mass, okay? Not to be giant muscles, that's not healthy. It's not useful, okay? But you see people who are super, super skinny, a lot of fruitarians. What you're seeing is simply the fact that they've lost all the excess fat, so you can actually see how little muscle they have. A lot of people are probably the same, but it's all masked with body fat. They look, you know, it makes them look like they might be stronger than they really are. A lot of people work out specifically to try to achieve or maintain a particular weight. But here's the thing. If we eat optimally, weight becomes a non-issue. So when your body's clean, you're eating optimally. I mean, my weight hasn't changed in nearly 30 years, more than a few pounds. It might go up or down a few pounds depending on what I'm doing. When I broke my hip, I was pretty immobilized. There was very little I could do for a few months. And to be honest, I've never gotten as active as I was back then. And so I'm carrying a little bit more than I used to, but I'm still, 7 or 8% body fat. Where it used to be
7 or 8?
Yeah, where it used to be 5. Maybe it's so nobody really has to worry about this if their diet's optimal. You're not going to stay overweight eating optimally. That's what we're saying. I mean, people change to an optimal diet and the excess weight falls off. Even if they're doing nothing, you're not going to see a fat fruitarian.
It's impossible. Well, it's borderline impossible, I think. Unless they literally just sat in a room and just tried to
It'd be pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty hard to do, especially since, fruits are not very calorically dense. What to do is to lovingly offer what you know as a gift. You've done that. She's turned it down. You can say to her, listen, I love you. I'm concerned about you. If you ever decide you're ready to get healthier, let me know and I'll be glad to help you. But you can't make her want it. Most people don't want it. So, and as I said yesterday, our families tend to not pay much attention. So don't be surprised she's not listening to you. She's not listening to you because you're her sister, and maybe she's not listening to you because you're not modeling perfect health.
No, I'm not now, but she remembers when I did have perfect health.
Okay.
Okay,
But-
my issues were emotional too, that brought me up to this point.
Whatever the issues are, she's looking at you going, you're telling me what to do and you're not where you need to be either. So the point is this. A, take care of yourself. Clean your own house first, right? Get your health where you want it to be, and then there will be people who will look at you and say, I want what you have. How do I get that? And other people are going to go, wow, you look great, but I'm not interested in changing anything. Okay, there's nothing you can do, okay? My father died of a stroke after multiple heart attacks. He was morbidly obese, same frame, weighed 100 pounds more than I do. I'll tell you, well, I was in the commercial real estate business for 10 years in Washington, D.C. And my father's a commercial architect who took his first job in Washington, D.C. and never left there, and so until he died. So he ran his own firm for many years, was well known, has designed a lot of famous buildings in D.C. And you know, everyone in the business knew him. So I got into the business in my early to mid-20s, and I would meet people who'd known my father for 30 years, and they would call me Alan, because when he was younger, he looked just like I did. Very lean, right? Same height, same coloring, I mean, same face, but he was now much heavier than me, and they'd see me and they'd think of him when he was younger. Unfortunately, he had changed quite a bit. Okay, he gained 100 pounds. So I'm 150 pounds. When he died, he was 247 pounds. And he'd been that way ever since he quit smoking at 40. Quit smoking, took up competitive eating instead. Refused to exercise, refused to change his diet. You know, he would take a package of Oreo cookies and inhale them. He would toss an entire cookie into his mouth and swallow it whole. And I remember sitting across his kitchen table from him one night, trying to convince him to make better choices because I was concerned about him. And he said, my blood pressure's fine. He said, I'm fine. He didn't tell me he was on 3 different drugs every day. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that until he had his first heart attack several years later. But he said, eating is one of the few pleasures I have left. I'm like, Dad, you're not even tasting the cookie. How much pleasure does that give you? Okay, after every family meal, we'd have dinner at their house. He'd have to excuse himself, go unbuckle his pants and lie down because he'd feel so bloated after every meal. I'm like, you're getting a lot of pleasure from this, huh? Give me a break, right? People don't want to change. Couldn't get him to change, okay? The problem is that we want to help save everyone we know. And you can't. Can't do it, okay? They have to want it themselves. Doesn't matter how much you want it for them. The vast majority of people are not interested in making any changes. They will literally choose disease, pain, death over making changes. It's crazy. It makes no sense. But that's what they'll do. So what I would encourage you to do is don't try to convince anyone of anything, because you'll never convince anyone of anything against their will. If they're not open to hearing it, you can't help them. So I wouldn't stop talking about it, but I would definitely stop pushing it on anyone, if that's what's happening. I would offer it as a gift instead. You know, if you change your diet, you could get hydrated and you'd feel and function much better. If you're interested, I can tell you more about that. Most of them are going to say, oh yeah, sure. And then you'll start talking and going, oh no, you mean I can't eat the stuff I want to eat? No thanks. Thanks anyway. Or their eyes just glaze over, or they go, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Are they listening? No. They're waiting for you to finish. Okay, you have to be paying attention. I mean, most people are simply not interested. So you guys are going to leave here with an amazing amount of knowledge based on your own experience. You're going to be in a different body. Esmeralda is in a different body right now from the one she showed up in 6.5 weeks ago, right? And yet she's going to go home, and there's still going to be people are going to go, you look amazing, what'd you do? And she'll say, I fasted for 26. Oh yeah, that's fine. Like, they don't want to hear about it because they don't want to think they should do it. They don't want to do it, most of them. That's okay. I would offer it to everyone you encounter, not push it on anyone, just offer it as a gift. Hey, you want to hear about it? Oh, okay. It's not your job to save them. You can't do it anyway, okay? Unless you want to be miserable, stop trying. Because if you're trying to save everyone, you're going to be miserable because it ain't going to work. They're not interested. I'll tell you a funny story. I for years tried to convince my mother to make better choices and to come fast with me. Wasn't interested. She was in pain all the time. There were things she had trouble doing. Wasn't interested. Everything I talked to her about diet, didn't believe it. She believed in medicine, believed, that, come on, son, this is all. One day, I get an envelope in the mail from her. My mother does not write letters. I don't know the last time I've seen her write a letter. I open up the envelope, and there's no letter. There's a newspaper clipping. She's cut out of her local Houston newspaper. It's a story written by a famous writer named Staff Writer. Okay? Don't even put someone's name on it. And it's talking about the benefits of eating more fresh fruits and vegetables. And there's a little yellow sticky on it that says, maybe it's true. She hears it from me for 20, 25 years, in one ear, out the other. As soon as Staff Writer says it, now it's got some validity. Okay? That's the way it is. Jesus once said, sometimes you have to leave your village to be a prophet. Okay? Your friends don't see you as the expert in nutrition. You're the yoga teacher. You're the mom, you're the sister, the friend, the lover, all the things you are. You're not an expert in nutrition. My family doesn't see me as any that either. I mean, thousands of people watch my videos every day and look to me for information. My family's like, he's just my brother. He doesn't know anything. That's what they want to believe, right? Because they don't want to change.